Hi, this is George. Just want to go over the new UNH earnings that were just announced. They came a lot lower than expected. Guidance was reset to $16 a share for 2025. And I think the street expectation was around $20, but most of the buy side was already pricing in something around $19 or $18. I read this as a resetting of expectations. I think this is the right move by management. You know, just lower everything and start over from scratch. You want to give them as much operating room as possible. And I like what I heard on the call. Needless to say, this was a disappointment, and we are seeing a slight drawdown in the price. I think we're mostly seeing people who invested in the company recently to potentially capture an earnings surprise or a relief rally. I think we're seeing them exit. Um, you can see here this is a little sheet I prepared before earnings. This is based on the guidance and the sentiment that management was going to give. And you can see, even if we're talking bullish, I mean, the upside is very limited. Um, I think we're somewhere around a neutral guidance and, a kind of neutral reaction from the market. I think the stock price is currently at $270. Management did say that they expected slower growth for 2026, and then incrementally growth to reaccelerate to what it was before at that 10 to 15% yearly growth. So it was a bit disappointing, but I'm not selling. I think my fundamental thesis stands. I really did like that the company is being more transparent. Their earnings release included so much more information about the different plans that they carry, their different segments, how much they expect to earn in each segment. I think this was long overdue, and this shows how serious a company is about changing its culture and being more transparent for the benefit of shareholders and their employees alike, right? Um, Another thing I found interesting is that they're very optimistic about their Optum Insight segment. They're seeing a lot of opportunities for AI and for fintech, and they're going to continue reinvesting in that business, which I think is great. And lastly, I also thought it was interesting how they really take into heart the public outcry against their business models, uh, the kind of like scrutiny they've been under. I think they're gonna go to great lengths to make up with the public and be more transparent, as I mentioned. Anyways, from here on out, I think uh, thinking about what the true valuation of the company is. Um, I think it depends. It depends on your long-term horizon, right? From the very start of my pitch, my first pitch, I said I don't expect UNH to turn around and go back to where it was in a matter of months. It's the long-term play, and ultimately, it is my belief that if you're willing to stay invested for a long time, you're going to see very significant upside. But in the short term, just giving a fair valuation. Um, Again, this is straight from their earnings report. We never saw this before. This is brand new. They never gave this much information about their different business lines or their expectations. That's changed, and that's good. But just breaking down their less some of the parts valuation, uh, which by the way I don't think is ideal because again I don't see this as a conglomerate. I see this as a very good business model that depends on every single part. Every single part plays a role. But sum of parts valuation is the most simple way to approach this right now. These are operating earnings for 2025. Um, it's not pure earnings. It's not the ideal, but that's what we have for now. And then here I'm assigning a 10 times multiple. That is extremely bearish, specifically knowing that this is uh, a kitchen sink year. I mean, this is just a bad year to reset guidance, and earnings are not going to stay this way going forwards. So a 10 times multiple is extremely punitive. But even with a 10 times multiple, let me expand this so you see the market cap. Um, you still get a share price of $157. I think I'd like to think that that's the absolute lowest it can get within reason. You never know, of course. But for example, Optum Insights is a software as a service business. It's high tech. It's extremely profitable. It operates at 19% operating margins. It's growing pretty fast. If this were a separate company, it'd be trading somewhere around like 30 times operating earnings. And you see this in the market all the time. That alone gets you all the way up to $236. That's not bad. And I don't think it's crazy that for an industry as big as healthcare, for one of the leading tech players there to be worth 30 times operating earnings, I don't think that's crazy. Um, as far as the others, if we put in 13 times multiple, which is more reasonable to me, this is, after all, healthcare. It's a very risky or apparently risky industry. We can't just slap a 20 times multiple like we could on other stocks. Um, you're almost at $300 based on this year's earnings. I don't think that's that bad at all. I think that this is pretty reasonable. And again, if you're investing right now, you're betting on the company's long term ability to use its operating leverage to continue to compound earnings. And I'm very surprised to see uh, their peers rally while UNH falls right now, because as you might have seen in my other video, UNH is still the most efficient and most this is still the best quality company. Just because it's having a bad year, that doesn't change that. And I'm very skeptical that CVS or other names out there are just going to have a good year while everyone else is suffering. That'd be very surprising for me. But anyways, that's kind of my initial reaction. If you haven't bought shares right now, I envy you because you're getting them at probably peak year with all the guidance reset, and it should be up from here, hopefully. Um, but I'm only down 10%. That's nothing. Warren Buffett has a quote about um, if you invest in the stock market, you should expect to see up to 50% losses on your investment. And if you're not able to take that, you shouldn't be investing in stocks at all. So I'm not concerned. I'm sticking with the company. Hopefully, it'll reprice sooner rather than later, but there's no way to time this, right? That's all I had for you. Thanks. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time.